We're talking eminent domain today on the Fallon Forum with State Representative Bobby Kaufman. Still keeping hopes alive that we can pass something this year at the State House that helps protect farmers and landowners in rural Iowa from their land being condemned for example, a lake. We're also going to talk about Lee Camp's latest video, How to Boil a Human. And we've got a few more things on the docket as well for you folks here today on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
I'm a burrito.
I'm a fighting burrito, full of fresh ingredients prepared before your very eyes.
I don't have eyes.
I have over 28 options and 268 million combinations, including Rizo for vegetarians.
I can take my meat off and call myself vegetarian.
Put that back on. The Fighting Burrito is locally owned.
I'm owned by some big corporation somewhere. Say, you want to go on a date?
No thanks. I'm seeing a quesadilla.
The Fighting Burrito online, fightingburrito.com. Join the fight.
This is Dr. Holding of the Story County Veterinary Clinic. For 15 years, we have been spaying and neutering feral cat groups at affordable prices. Wild cats destroy game birds and songbirds. A single female cat can produce over 4,000 kittens in 7 years. The shelters are full, so unwanted kittens will be put to sleep. Your cats will stay home and stay healthy. Call us for all your dog and cat needs at the Story County Veterinary Clinic between Ames and Nevada on Highway 30, 1 mile east of Interstate 35, 515-232-8766.
Local farms, global flavor. That's the secret to Hawk's growing popularity. The best meals begin with the best ingredients, and 90% of Hawk's ingredients come from local farms. In addition to seasonal fruits and vegetables, Hawk features grass-fed beef and lamb, and pasture-raised chicken and duck, all raised without hormones, steroids, or cages. The coffee is fair trade, locally roasted, and Hawk's House liquors come from right here in Iowa. Hawk's owners go the extra mile, composting organic waste and recycling. For more information or to make reservations, visit hawktable.com. That's HOQ table.com.
With warm weather finally here, it's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
The 8th Annual Natural Living Expo is May 18th and 19th at the 4-H building at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. The Natural Living Expo is the place to learn about sustainable practices and healthy lifestyle choices. The expo offers classes and vendors where you'll learn about green building design, sustainable agriculture, urban farming, non-toxic cleaning products, massage, and more. There's no cost to attend, and what you'll come away with is priceless. For more information, visit www.naturallivingexpo.org. That's www.naturallivingexpo.org.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Thank you, Brother Trucker. Looking over my notes here, folks, a bunch of stuff to cover today. We're going to start off with a conversation about Miracle Village. I just came to my attention this morning. This is an interesting place in Florida for sex offenders. We're going to talk about that first off the shoot today. We're also going to talk about this sexual harassment complaint. It may become a lawsuit. Right now, it's a complaint by a longtime Senate Republican staffer. We'll talk about that today. State Representative Bobby Kaufman is going to join us at the bottom of the hour at 12:30 to talk about efforts to continue the eminent domain bill and how that is being connected to the issue of passenger rail. Compromise in politics always involves some bridge building. We'll see how that goes. And finally, I want to share Lee Camp's video with the interesting title, How to Boil a Human. This is a climate change related video that Lee Camp put out recently. I want to take a second to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and also Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility for getting behind the Fallon Forum for a long time now and for making it possible. And I want to thank Gateway Marketing Cafe for sponsoring this segment. We're going to go straight to this video about a village in Florida, a city in Florida called Miracle Village. There are 750,000 Americans on sex offender registries across the country. 750,000, close to 1 million people. And anytime somebody hears sex offender and registry, they have this one category of person in mind. And that person, again, even if it's something totally different than their stereotype, that person is going to have a hard time finding a place to live, finding work. The situation reminds me of the status of untouchables and lepers in India. When I visited India, I had an interesting experience with that constituency. There are 6 million lepers in India. And I went to a village that was designed to try to not only improve their lot in life, but to make it clear that they are people too. And again, that they're not all equal. And it seems to me like sex offenders have become the lepers of modern America. And I like what this community in Florida is doing. And maybe this is something that might work and have a model that can be replicated elsewhere. Let's take a look at this. Okay, for some reason it's not... Okay, I guess it is coming, folks, so bear with us. Yeah, and there we go. Maybe? Okay, well... All right, I'm sorry, folks. Technical stuff going on here. Let me tell you a little bit more about my connection on this issue while Krista Bolt, my producer today, works on figuring that out. Chris, maybe just go to YouTube and use it there. When I ran for Congress, votes that I had taken on sex offender issues came back to bite me. The problem is, in Iowa and elsewhere, you have again, it's a really easy political soundbite, a really easy campaign slogan to say, I got tough on crime, I got tough on sex offenders. And you can do that even at the expense of intelligent policy. And that's happened over and over again. And the most egregious situation was back in the late 90s when Iowa decided to put in place a ban on how close to a school a sex offender could live. Now, it really is pretty silly when you think about it. So a sex offender can't live within 2,000 feet of a school, but he can just wander over to the schoolyard during the day. There was nothing preventing him from hanging out at the schoolyard when the kids were actually there. But he couldn't go home at night and sleep within 2,000 feet. It was really silly. And where did the legislature come up with the magic number 2,000 feet? Well, I think it was Kentucky or Tennessee had settled on 1,000 feet. And so, gosh darn it, the legislature wanted to be tougher than that and come up with a bigger number. So they came up with 2,000. That's where it came from. And they were certain, as they were drafting the bill, they thought, well, somebody's going to offer an amendment to reduce this to at least the Tennessee or Kentucky level, whatever it was. And nobody did, of course. I mean, I probably should have, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have passed. I mean, nobody at the legislature, very, very rarely does somebody at the legislature vote against anything that can be construed as being soft on crime. And so I did. I was a lone no vote in the House because it was clearly unworkable. And it proved to be unworkable. County law enforcement officials, sheriff's department, so they all came out and said, this is ridiculous. There's no way to enforce this. And they tried, and it started this whole domino effect where, interestingly, in Des Moines, for example, you didn't have, there weren't a lot of places that sex offenders could live in Des Moines because we had so many schools. Well, in other places in the suburbs, it was easier for sex offenders to find residency that qualified for this restriction. And so, it became a crazy situation where people in the suburbs, local governments in the suburbs, were passing their own sex offender bans. It just became ridiculous. I want to say that in the first year, Polk County spent an additional $1 million trying to enforce this ridiculous law. After a while, again, there were people who knew it was not going to work, but they voted for it anyhow because they didn't want to be seen as weak on crime, as enabling sex offenders to, prey on our kids. And in the end, anybody who was paying attention, anybody who was at all involved with the issue agreed it was absolutely unworkable. And yet that didn't stop Leonard Boswell from using it against me in a campaign. So, the problem is we all agree, all of us agree that truly dangerous predators should be away. If they've got to be locked up to protect kids and society, then that's what should happen. But the problem is there's a lot of folks who commit some crime because, again, we've been increasing the number of crimes and the penalties for those crimes to the point where people who do something, stupid or not, and they're not a predator, they're not a repeat offender, they do something stupid, or it's an online thing, or it's a 17-year-old with an 18-year-old with a 16-year-old girlfriend. There's all sorts of possible scenarios where people who really aren't dangerous, they just did something stupid and they get caught and they end up on this list for life in some cases. And it is a scandal, really. And we need to have a legislative solution to this, not just at the state level, but nationally. But at least there is a community in Florida that is trying to provide an opportunity for folks on that registry to get their life back together. I think we've got our glitches worked out. Let's take a look at this.
I am a convicted sex offender. I had sex with a 16-year-old female who was my girlfriend, who I was dating at the age of 18 and 19.
While I was in gay rehab, I had conversations with my counselor, and part of the conversation, I disclosed some information that I had touched a boy inappropriately.
I had consensual sex with an underage girl.
My charge is computer solicitation of a minor. Never had sex with him, never had contact with him. I was turned in by his parents.
My charges were lewd and lascivious behavior with a child under 16. Prior to that, I was one of the top racquetball coaches in the world.
I spent 2.5 years in prison.
I was in prison for 10 years.
I ended up doing 22 months.
I got a year in county jail.
After my release, I really didn't know where I could go.
There's laws in the state of Florida that say you can't live within 1,000 feet of where a child might congregate.
No, there's a school here. No, there's a park there. No, there's a bus stop down the street.
We had searched for places to live, and nobody would rent to us.
If it wasn't for this place, I would be homeless.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have about 200 people, close to 200 people. I think we have 107 offenders here right now. We got sugar cane, corn, and green beans all around us, as far as you can see. Our closest neighbor's about 2.5, 3 miles away. Right over here is our sewage treatment plant. We're a self-contained village. We have our own water supply, our own sewage treatment. We're funded mainly by donations. I don't think there's many places in the United States like this.
We label people, sex offenders or sexual predators, for a wide variety of behaviors. So as a result, we have a lot of folks carrying those labels without it really distinguishing between who's dangerous and who isn't.
Once you've got the label, you're on the internet the rest of your life.
Walking into a grocery store, you got photographs up on the wall that has your name.
People aren't going to hire you.
They find out that we're felons, the application's thrown away. There's not even a chance.
And especially if it's a sex crime.
Corporate McDonald's or Burger King, they don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm going to be on that registry till the day I die.
The sad part of it is that upsets me as a mother is the fact that this is on him for the rest of his life.
Qualifications basically fall under a case-by-case basis. We do a background, we try to talk to people, find out they're going to be a good fit in the community.
We get at least 100 requests a week to move in here from people that need housing.
But if you're talking about somebody who's 17 years old, none of our guys out here are going to have contact with him because he's a minor.
And he's from this county, right?
His family's from this county. His crime was in another county, but his family lives in Boynton.
This is a situation where this kid has no place, absolutely no place to go.
I don't know how people survive. You know, we have Miracle Village, thank heavens, in terms of there being at least a place where people can live and feel human. But other than that, I don't know how people survive.
And that is telling. There has not been one sex crime in Miracle Village since it was established. Anyway, it's an impressive development. My question is, why is there only one of those? Maybe there's something. Maybe we should be looking at something like that here in Iowa. And even more important, we should be looking at how we deal with sexual predators, because the sex offender registry actually makes it harder to really know who the dangerous people are when you lump all sorts of folks into one category, as the woman said. You really don't know who the dangerous folks are. And we want to be protected from them, but they're a small minority of the folks who are on that sex offender registry. Hopefully, what Miracle Village is doing will help raise awareness about real solutions to this problem. Okay, on the issue of sex, apparently there's some tension at the Senate Republican caucus this week over allegations made by Kirsten Anderson. She was a longtime employee at the House Republican caucus. The Senate Republican caucus. She'd been there since 2008. Her job was to put together press releases and other stuff, not just for standard releases, but for website stuff as well. She as an aside, I think this is interesting. She made about $60,000 a year, and had raises of 9.8% in 2011, 6.9% in 2012, and 4.6% in 2013. My, they treat their staff really well up there at the State House. I wish the rest of us could do that well with annual increases. But anyway, that's another conversation. She was fired the same day that she submitted a complaint about documenting sexual harassment by other staffers, possibly by legislators as well. She's not saying much about the specifics of it. We are trying to get a conversation with her and others from the Senate Republican side of things to talk about this. That may be hard to accomplish with it having a quasi judicial element to it. There is a complaint filed to the Civil Rights Commission. So I don't know. And again, I really don't know what the answer is. I think it's really important not to assume that there's a bunch of people guilty. This could well be, and I've seen this happen before, where you've got somebody who has a vendetta against somebody and they make stuff up. I'm not saying she did that. I'm saying that's one possibility, and this is a case where it makes a lot of sense to let the judicial process work. And again, this may be a primarily internal thing for a while, but I would not be surprised if there would eventually be some kind of a formal lawsuit. I don't know. But again, it wouldn't surprise me that something had happened. I will say this, and again, I'm not a woman. Obviously, I'm a man, so maybe I didn't see stuff that others might have seen. But I say, and despite all the criticism I levy against the against things, how things happen at the State House, I will say that I thought for the most part people, when I was there, acted with reasonably. I don't think I ever witnessed an instance where I thought somebody was being sexually harassed. The funniest moment, and this was total. This was innocent and nobody minded. Minette Doderer, maybe folks remember the great state representative Minette Doderer from Iowa City. She and I were often the two lone no votes on particularly on criminal justice bills. We shared a lot in common. She'd been there a long time, and she'd seen the legislature go from being a good old boys club to being much more inclusive. Again, still got a ways to go, but much more inclusive than it was. And one day, I can't remember the bill, but the Republican who wanted to talk with her about some content of the bill asked her, the formal expression used is, will the gentleman or lady from Johnson County yield to a question? And this guy said, would the woman from, or would the state legislator from Johnson yield? And she rose and said, yes, to a question, which got a great round of laughs. But that's the only incident I remember that had anything resembling any kind of an exchange with a sexual innuendo. And that was very innocent. And again, it was initiated by Minette Doderer herself. So I don't know. It's very possible that stuff going on behind the scenes that this woman alleges did happen. I'd love to get her and somebody from the Republican caucus on this program to talk about it. Maybe that will happen, maybe it won't, but maybe as this thing continues to move forward in the press and in the public, we'll have more knowledge about it. I think it's worth looking at because, we continue to be a society that has made lots of progress, but has a long way to go on a lot of issues, including full equality for women. And if women are being harassed in the workplace, then clearly there is an element of inequality there. We've done a lot in this state to advance the cause of gays and lesbians, especially with the annual event we have that calls attention to bullying of young people who may be gay or lesbian in schools. We've seen how that issue is played out with Governor Branstad coming down on the right side of that issue, despite a lot of pressure from the Bob Vanderplat's wing of the Republican Party, who challenged him to take his name off the conference. So we've made progress. We still have a ways to go, and it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the passenger rail issue, and then we're going to welcome State Representative Bobby Kaufman to the show to talk about eminent domain. That's something that Bobby Kaufman is a Republican state representative from Eastern Iowa. And I worked with his dad, Jeff Kaufman, on this issue. It's an issue that brought some Democrats and Republicans together, and one that still needs attention because there are folks that are still in danger of losing their land to eminent domain for reasons that really don't make sense. We're going to talk about that and continued efforts to try to improve the law to protect people in that situation. I do want to thank Gateway Market for having sponsored this segment of our show. Gateway, my favorite grocery store, not just because they're a client of my show. And again, there's a handful of small businesses that support this show, and I really am grateful to all of them. Gateway has been exemplary in their support. And again, as a community, as a pillar of retail accountability in this community, they do a great job. A lot of the food comes from local sources. And again, it's not just a great grocery store, but it's a local cafe as well for breakfast, lunch, supper, and don't forget the catering service. That's Gateway Market and Cafe at 20th and Woodland. I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, folks, welcome back to the conversation. Hopefully, we're going to hear from State Representative Bobby Kaufman here shortly. This is that time of the year at the State House where things are really unpredictable. You never know quite what might happen. But he's very passionate about this issue, as am I. So hopefully, we'll hear from him soon on the issue of eminent domain. Interestingly, a proposed compromise being offered by a House Republican, Bobby, and a House Democrat, Dave Jacoby, ties the issues of eminent domain and passenger rail together, and that's interesting. I will share with you what I have received about that today. It's a press release they put out. Again, the problem is the Senate. The Senate does not want to move on this issue, and it's a real shame because it does affects a bunch of people very importantly. I've probably worked with 6 different communities, maybe 7 different communities around the state, just on the eminent domain issue relevant to lakes. And I have nothing against a lake, although the truth is, if it's designed by God as a river, maybe it ought to stay a river or a stream. In some cases, you can, of course, you can create a lake out of that stream or river without causing too much environmental damage. But if it's on somebody's private property, there's no reason why that makes sense, especially if you're looking at it as an economic development opportunity, or if you want to basically turn that farmland into somebody else's profit, and in doing so, take it away from someone else. That just doesn't make sense. So anyway, State Representatives Dave Jacoby, a Democrat, and Bobby Kaufman, a Republican, have offered an agreement on 2 key issues. And one of them is the eminent domain issue, which, again, passed by an overwhelming majority in the Iowa House, and yet still cannot get any traction in the Senate. And this is, I'll tell you, the problem on this count is the Senate Democrats. So I wish they would pay more attention to what the people on the ground, in the field, whose farms are at stake, are saying about this. So that legislation passed with over 90 votes. Now, the other issue, the issue that's been a harder sell in the Iowa House, has been continuing the extension of light rail from Davenport to Iowa City. Sorry, not light rail. I keep saying that. Passenger rail, different than light rail. That originally was approved by Governor Chet Culver. It was a 4-year appropriation, $5 million a year, bringing in $80 million in federal money, and they are tying these two things together, saying, "Hey, let's try to reach compromise on these things," because the Senate wants the appropriation for passenger rail. So I don't know. I think this is a great idea. Politics is about compromise. It's about trying to, maybe give up on something that you are against. Stop fighting that battle in order to get something you want. I think we might have Representative Kaufman on the phone with us. Nope, someone else. What? Oh, Doug Robbins. Okay. Doug, welcome to the show. Hello, Doug.
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to look at my call board first there.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, so I was just sharing information about the press release that Representative Kaufman has offered along with Dave Jacoby.
Right.
And you are one of the people I'm talking about who are on the front lines, whose farm, you've been fighting this battle for over a decade now.
Yes, actually it's dated clear back to 1995 when they first started surveying ground for a lake in Clark County.
Okay.
So it's been almost 20 years.
And you're one of several dozen people, I believe, who have land that would be taken.
Right.
And the folks who want this tend to be the city government in Osceola.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And who else? Who else is behind it?
Surwas, Southern Iowa Rural Water Association. They are a big driving force behind it. And then they have some representatives from each one of the small towns in Clark County.
Okay. And I know they've made the argument that it is needed as a water source, and I followed that argument very closely down in Page County when the mayor of Shenandoah wanted to. He was leading the charge to condemn land along the West Tarkio River, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And the idea was that we needed this for water, for a water source, and for recreation. Now, they ended up backing out the recreation argument because you can't make that argument before the NRCS.
That's right.
But they stuck with we need this for a water source argument, and the folks living in that area hired, if my memory serves right on this, they hired a water expert to come in and survey water needs and availability, and found out not only that there was plenty of water elsewhere, but it was much cheaper to get it elsewhere than to condemn this land, put up a dam, and build a lake. Now, is that similar in your area? Is there a similar argument against the clamor for needing a new water source?
Well, I guess the difference between us and Page County was Page County had wells available that was much cheaper than building a lake. The recreation would involve it, of course, but in our area, wells, I will admit, wells are kind of a problem. Mm-hmm. The problem in Clark County is back in 2004, they wanted a 359-acre lake to supply 3 million gallons of water a day locally. 2 weeks after the eminent domain bill was passed and then overridden, and the governor was overridden.
Well, the governor vetoed it, and then we overrode his veto. That was the last vote I ever took.
Right. And
2006. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that plain as day.
Yeah, me too.
2 weeks after that, the NRCS come up with a different strategy to make sure the lake stays an 800 or 900 acre lake instead of a 359 acre lake, and basically for recreation. They won't admit that, but it's clear that's what they want with such a huge lake. And so this bill that Bobby Kaufman and Jacoby have worked on all session long, that was just to help fill in those loopholes that became apparent. And like I said, over 90 votes each time that bill was voted on, 4 times, either standing alone or as an amendment placed on another bill.
Well, we've got Representative Kaufman on another line, Doug. So hold on, we'll put you on hold. Let me welcome Bobby Kaufman to the program and ask him specifically about what it would do, what the eminent domain bill that the House passed would do to help folks in Doug's situation. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Well, Ed, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I'm happy to be on here.
Sure.
What Doug said is correct. The 06 law was passed with the intentions of fixing the problem. The problem is that there were some loopholes that were immediately exploited. And what this bill does is close those loopholes. It forces you to prove how much land you actually need to condemn through feasibility studies and having engineers sign off on it. And then you can take what you need. You just can't take any more than what you need, particularly when it's for recreational purposes. So
again,
I think this...
No, we tried to close. I mean, we tried to just put the kibosh on anybody coming in and condemning farmland. So what exactly is the loophole that now needs to be plugged? What is the loophole through which, for example, the development interests in Clark County are trying to drive their engine?
Well, the basic thing is that they're able to buy their own. They're able to buy their own study. You know, the 06 law, I believe, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here, Ed. You do it more than I would. But what they're trying to do is basically purchase their own results. You know, there's been other engineering studies that have come through that have shown that not only is there another alternative source that works just as well, but also that what they're trying to do is far more than they ever needed. So I think the loophole is that you can basically buy your way to get whatever answer you want to have.
And your legislation would require an independent study as someone without any connection to the interest that wants to condemn the land?
What the bill would do is offer the folks whose land is being condemned, they would be able to have their own engineer that would have to be taken into consideration by a judge. So you don't just have the condemning entities saying, hey, we hired an engineer, and he or she says we need X number of acres. Well, the folks whose ground is being condemned, they also get to have an engineer who is given equal consideration in court. And if it's found that there's malice intent, that recreation was truly the purpose of the condemnation, then up to $100,000 in court fees are to be repaid to the victims of the condemnation in court.
And this passed with overwhelming support in the Iowa House, and that's what happened back in 2006. I mean, that was the one bill that I had floor managed too, and the governor vetoed it. And one of the problems, by the way, that came out of that was an urban problem. There was a tweak in there that allowed the city of Burlington to come in and condemn an old housing development called the Manor. And I visited there a couple times. It was a beautiful place. You know, very, pretty low-income people living there, but they were proud of it. They kept it up. And it was condemned for a mall that was never built. They bulldozed the houses, moved the people out, and then the developer from Minneapolis backed out. And I don't even know. Maybe nothing has happened with that. But that was another loophole that was inadvertently, created by what was a fairly well-intentioned bill. So, I mean, again, and it's the same thing. It passed the House overwhelmingly. And this passed the House overwhelmingly. And now you've got a logjam in the Senate, apparently.
Well, Ed, let me just tell you first off that to this day, when it comes to eminent domain, you're still a legend in that building. Oh. And that very loophole that you just referred to is also corrected in my bill to some extent. And it just simply says that if you condemn ground and there's nothing done, if there's no movement after 2 years, automatically state law dictates that the people whose land was condemned get a chance to immediately purchase it back.
Okay. Yeah.
This passed overwhelmingly 4 times. I know for sure from canvassing personally that I've got 40-plus votes in the Senate, and one human being, one person, has unilaterally, single-handedly refused to come up for a vote, and that's what we're up against.
And who is that?
Mike Gronstall.
Okay, and what is his reason?
I have yet to determine that. I've heard the answer that we already had the 06 law in place. I've heard the answer that there's too much going on this session, and I can't seem to make any headway with the fact that yes, there was protections made in 06, but now we're trying to correct them, and I just can't seem to get through.
I usually start looking for a money connection when I hear those kinds of reasons. Like, is there some big money somewhere that doesn't want this to happen?
I don't know what I can't speculate, but all I know is that there's some force far superior to me or anything that we've been able to offer that is preventing that.
Well, maybe not superior to you, but maybe more powerful at the moment.
You're
doing commendable work. I'm very proud of the work you're doing there on this. Now, the one other question: if for some reason the Senate should take it up, and again you said it has the votes to pass, what would Governor Branstad's response be?
I would hope that he would understand that this is an issue that experiences broad spectrum support, that is well regarded by both parties. And you know what? the Republican Party is supposed to be, we pride ourselves on thinking we stand up for the little guy, and I know Democrats pride themselves thinking they do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a party unity issue where we're both able to stand up for the little guy. I would be shocked if he couldn't get on board with something like that.
But he hasn't specifically committed to a position either way on it.
No.
Well, that would worry me a little bit.
Yeah. But for me, I've got to worry about one hurdle at a time. In my first hurdle.
Yep.
And that was the whole reasoning behind Jacoby and I's deal. Was we were trying to resurrect this by taking two dead issues important to two separate caucuses and merging them to hopefully get them some traction.
It's a great idea. It's a very politically astute move on your part.
I appreciate that.
And so, what is the response to been to that from? And again, your proposal with Dave Jacoby kind of brings together the issue, the eminent domain bill, and the Amtrak funding that the Senate Democrats want, that the House Republicans have rejected.
Yep.
I mean, do you have, if that is accepted by the Senate, do you have enough votes in the House to accept that compromise as well?
Absolutely. I've spent 2 straight days on the phone. Dave Jacoby spent 2 straight days on the phone assuring the powers that be that we can deliver the votes. I can deliver the votes in the House. The problem is I'm getting the exact same response I get on the standalone language, and that is, it's too late. We don't need this. It's not going to happen. And I tell you, there's nothing more frustrating than forging a good bipartisan compromise only to watch it get shot down.
That takes work. And as you said, it's been I'm sure you and Representative Jacoby, have spent a lot of time pushing that forward. So
on this eminent domain issue this session, I've spent several hundred hours. I've made hundreds of trips to the Senate. I mean, I'm doing everything I can here.
Well, you're a hero to those folks who are fighting to keep their land, their farms, their way of life, and I commend you for that. So one more question. It does appear that the session is getting close to winding down, at least according to today's newspaper. Things change fast, and maybe that's not happening now. What's your sense of when the session might wrap up?
I predict that we'll be done by midnight tonight. We gavelled in this morning, passed a few small bills paying off state debt. I hear that we're going to take up education reform with the funding after lunch. We're going to do HHS standings, property tax reform. I think we're going to get everything wrapped up today, in my opinion.
Okay. And so I'm guessing, too, that as in most of when you get to the final week of session, and certainly the final day, most of an average lawmaker's time is spent waiting.
Yep.
So why not do something, while you're waiting, for example, like a great compromise that involves passenger rail and eminent domain? Why not do that?
You are 100% correct.
Yeah. Anyway, I really commend you for your efforts there, Representative Kaufman, and if we can do anything to help on this end, let me know. I do want to welcome Doug Robbins back to the conversation very briefly. I got to run to a break, but Doug, again, we appreciate the fight that you're involved with, and what's next for you? If this bill does not pass, what does the next year look like for you?
Well, Ed, I guess we're really not sure. We, the landowners as a group, have been served papers within the last 2 months, basically forcing us into a lawsuit with the Clark County Reservoir Commission. So whether or not we were wanting an attorney bill, we are forced to hire our own attorneys now and defend ourselves that way. Well, I'm not sure what the process is going to be on that, but it will be going to court later on this year, more than likely.
Well, I'm sorry you have to do that. That's unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for taking the time to join us, and again, thank you, Representative Kaufman, as well.
And thank you, and just know that I couldn't be fighting this fight if you hadn't started it. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I always happy to start a good fight.
Thank you.
All right, take care, folks.
too.
We're going to switch gears when we come back. We're going to talk a little bit about a somewhat provocative Lee Camp video entitled "How to Boil a Human." It's not quite as horrific as it sounds. I do want to thank the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit for sponsoring this segment of our show. The IES, as it's known locally, is an annual event. This is, I believe, the 5th or 6th annual IES. It's going to take place at Drake University on November 9th. I want to get it on your radar early because it's an important event. Good to get the word out. If you're a small business owner or want to be a small business owner, and you don't even have to be a recent immigrant. Heck, my grandparents came over 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago. I'm still tied to my immigrant roots. If you've got interest in learning how to develop your own business, how to deal with the changes in healthcare law because of the Affordable Care Act, how to deal with current developments in tax codes, Lots of different things you can learn. In fact, last year, about 450 people showed up at the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit. And each year, about 100 new business ventures come out of this conference. Check it out, folks, online. That's the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit. I also want to remind folks about the June 7th Matthew Shepard Awards Banquet. This year, the parents of Matthew Shepard, Dennis and Judy, will be the keynote speakers, and Alicia Claypool, a longtime activist for equality for the GLBT community, she will be receiving an award. So check that out, folks. It's online. On my website, of course, you can find information about that on the fallonforum.com. And, of course, there's information on their website as well. I'll be back in a few minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Last year, the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit attracted over 460 people from 43 countries. This year's summit is November 9th at Drake University. Every year, more than 100 companies are formed by summit attendees. This year, 15 seminars will be taught answering questions like, what do you do when the IRS audits your business? Register now for this year's Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit online at iesusa.org. That's iesusa.org.
Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano, and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
What do you think, Chris? Max Wellman? Good stuff, huh? Good stuff. Max Wellman, one of our great local musicians. I want to thank the Fighting Burrito for sponsoring this segment of the program, and I want to remind folks about the $1 Million Marathon. This is an effort to raise $1 million for cancer research. 160 people will each run a marathon starting on June 1st in Washington, running across the country, coming through Iowa. Big event in Iowa in mid-July, and it'll finish in Washington, D.C. I think it's about 40 days long. And again, 160 people running back-to-back marathons, passing a baton. They still have some openings. So if you have the inkling to run 26.2 miles as part of a relay, to raise money for cancer. Check it out, folks. It's a project of Above and Beyond Cancer. And you can find out more about it online at their website or at coasttocoastforcancer.com. All right. Lee Camp, a nationally known comedian whose star continues to rise, is always coming out with provocative videos. His Moment of Clarity show recently got a big boost with a Kickstarter program that raised, I think, close to $40,000. And there was a danger of that not continuing to be aired because of financial issues. That Kickstarter program took care of it. And he continues to put out his regular Moment of Clarities as well. And this is one that came out recently that I want to share with you right now.
So you've probably heard the people talking about global warming also mention how to boil a frog. The story goes that if you drop a frog into boiling water, he will immediately jump out because he'll think, holy God, it's hot in here. But if you put a frog in room temperature water and then slowly bring it to a boil, the frog won't jump out because he'll just think there's something wrong with the thermostat, and then he'll busy himself writing strongly worded letters to the hotel manager demanding a room with a more reasonable heating system. He'll keep doing that until he's a fried frog. Well, besides being an indictment of the intelligence of frogs, it's meant to make us ask ourselves, are we the frogs? And maybe one day aliens far, far away will use us as their example of gradual, horrible change being ignored simply because it's gradual. They'll go, how do you boil a human? Well, you slowly heat up their planet, and even though it's them causing it, they won't care enough to do anything about it. The other day, for the first time in 3 million years, our planet passed 400 parts per million for carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Many scientists believe 350 parts per million is the maximum level for a truly safe and stable planet. But we left that number in the dust. 350 can eat our wake. Scoreboard, scoreboard. Overrated. But people don't stop to think about all the positives of ignoring climate change. In only a few years, there could be affordable beachside property in Ohio. Not to mention affordable beachside melanoma and halitosis. You used to live on farmland, now you live on a water park. How cool is that? No, but seriously, the reason there's so much supposed debate on climate change, and I don't mean debate among scientists, there's essentially no debate there, but the debate among others is because there are several types of people who either want global warming or don't mind it. First of all, you have the evangelicals who believe it's all in God's plan. Apparently, God's plan includes killing tons of people with floods, droughts, and famine, and making the planet uninhabitable. And why would he do that? Gay people. Gay people. Always it up. There is nothing God hates more than a well-choreographed dance number. Seriously, gay people, why do you have to up the entire planet for everyone? Next, you have Alex Jones's people who think a conspiracy is behind global warming and scientists somehow manufactured the 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere so that the corporate elite could make money from carbon trading. Yes, that's right. The same people who make trillions of dollars from everything oil are now tricking you to stop you from using oil so they can make a much, much smaller amount of money. It's like me betting you $5 I won't tear up my own $20 bill. And then I do it, you give me the $5, and I go, sweet, look who's $5 richer. The truth is, Alex Jones needs a conspiracy once a week or else people turn off his fact-free program. So this week, what do you know? He has a conspiracy to tell you about. This is my only question for Alex Jones and his fans. When was the last time someone just actually died and wasn't assassinated? Never? Really? No one's ever died? Then there's one final group that love global warming, the corporate plutocrats, who don't mind global warming so much because A, they make insane amounts of money from us burning oil, and B, they want the oil underneath the Arctic. So they love that the Arctic is melting. They don't give a about a penguin. I know penguins don't live in the Arctic, but still, you gotta admit, they don't give a about a penguin. Note to self, purchase website, they don't give a about a penguin.com. I have to admit, it's nice to see the idiots and the douchebags coming together on something. They really have put their differences aside to go forward hand in opposition of what every scientist is saying. The truth is the debate is over, and we're passing one horrible milestone after another while we sit here arguing an inarguable debate. I would say the debate is moot, but I looked up the word moot in the dictionary, and the definition is, number one, arguable, as in this debate is moot, and number two, inarguable, as in this debate is moot. So it's high time we took the word moot out to the shed and beat the shit out of it. It's having an identity crisis, and we don't have time for our words to go off soul searching. So if you think about it, if you put a human in a boiling pot of water, he would jump out. If you put him in room temperature water and then bring it to a boil, he would probably still jump out. But if you put him in room temperature water with 3 other humans, and while the water slowly came to a boil, the 3 others told him reasons he should think that either the water is not getting hotter or that God wants it to get hotter, then the human will stand there until he dies a horrible death and takes the frogs with him.
And takes the frogs with him. Well, again, Lee Camp, hilarious. I'm always in awe at how effectively he combines humor with the serious matters before us. And again, his stuff covers the range. And I'm glad to see him doing a lot on the climate change issue because, well, let me rephrase that. Climate change is not an issue, it's a crisis. And Lee knows that. More and more people are waking up to that fact, and I think I've heard other people make the frog in the boiling water metaphor before, but I think he does it very well. And again, I think I hope more people take the time to consider what really is going on. You can't tack any particular weather event to climate change, but I mean, look at the horrific the tornado in Moore. I mean. That's as big as they get. The destruction from that tornado is incredible, unbelievable. And again, we had an interesting year last year because of the lack of tornadoes, but that's because we were in that drought cycle. We should. There's no doubt that weather is getting more and more severe. There's no doubt about that. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. You can document that. There's no doubt that the climate is warming. That's not an opinion anymore. I was dismayed at the Natural Living Expo. Great event, by the way. You should come next year. They're going to do it again for sure. It's a wonderful event. It attracts some people, though. Sometimes I wonder where they're coming from. I had 2 people when I mentioned that the Great March for Climate Action was going to try to, was there to call attention to the climate crisis, to mobilize people to do more. 2 people said, well, it's in God's hands. I cannot wrap my mind around how someone could think that God would just sit back and let us destroy his creation. I don't get that part at all. There was another person who just told me, I don't believe in global warming. That's not even, you can't have that opinion anymore, right? I'm sorry. It's not, you cannot agree with the facts, but you cannot deny that climate change is happening. The global warming in particular is happening. Again, some people quibble over, well, is it global warming or climate change? Well, it's actually both. Yes, the globe is warming. And yes, the climate is changing because the globe is warming. So, again, whatever you can do, folks, in your own personal life to reduce your carbon footprint, to live more sustainably, please do it. Whatever you can do to help encourage our U.S. Congress to get on board, our president to get on board. I mean, President Obama has talked about this issue. He needs to do more, and we need to be the ones to hold him and Congress accountable. I will say this. I'm delighted that tomorrow, Thursday, the Great March for Climate Action will be announcing our first national political endorsement. Very excited about that. We'll tell you more when that happens tomorrow. I want to thank the Fighting Burrito for sponsoring this segment of our show. Fighting Burrito is at 13th and Locust in the Nationwide building. And again, you may be familiar with Fighting Burrito from their store in Ames, a longtime presence in Ames. And again, owned by a local guy, Matthew Goodman, and offering a fantastic custom-made burritos for very affordable prices. Check them out, folks. That's Fighting Burrito. at 13th and Locust. I'll be back tomorrow. We got a lot of ground to cover tomorrow as well. I'm hoping that State Representative Dan Kelly will be able to join us if the session is indeed over. I'm hoping that Nakisha Phillips will again join us if she's not at Methodist Hospital having a baby. Ron Yarnell will join us, as will Sumit Haq, who is from Bangladesh and who owns the Haq restaurant at East 5th and Walnut. We're going to talk a little bit about the garment factory issue as well. I'll be back tomorrow. I want to thank Chris DeBolt for producing the show and Webcast One Live for providing the studio.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.